in the military, if you're a reservist, you're either on active duty orders or you're not. You're in a Title 10 or a Title 32 status. So if you're a civilian and clearly in your civilian capacity, if you commit a crime, sexual assault, it could be a DUI, whatever that happens to be, you're not going to be able to be prosecuted under the UCMJ if you were in your civilian capacity. Now, however, let's contrast that. If you were on weekend drill, and you were on a drill weekend and something happened. Let's say you were mobilized for a TDY or a TAD, or you're doing your 2 weeks of drill time. If you commit a crime during those 2 weeks, then absolutely you can be prosecuted for it. In fact, I'm out in San Diego now, but in about 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be out at Fort Lee, Virginia, trying a case representing a reservist. Now, this particular reservist was on a drill weekend and was accused of sexual assault on that drill weekend. So they actually, it took a year, but they actually mobilized him and gave him mobilization orders, brought him back on to active duty to court-martial him. And he had to leave his, stop his civilian job, was brought back onto active duty and has been sitting for 6-7 months on active duty pending his trial. So that absolutely can happen and does happen. In fact, like I said, we're going to be dealing with that in a couple weeks. But the general answer is no. If you're in your civilian capacity, the UCMJ doesn't have jurisdiction over you. But if you are in a active duty Title 10 or Title 32 status, they do have active duty. They do have jurisdiction over you, and they will oftentimes bring you back on active duty to prosecute you, which is a complete nightmare if you have a civilian job and civilian employment and have to stop all that to be brought back and court-martialed, where you're going to be basically on active duty for months and months. It could even be up to a year. It's a complete nightmare scenario.
What about if you're a reservist? So obviously you're not on duty and you're just doing your regular job, and somebody else who happens to be a reservist, you're accused of sexual assault by the other person that's in the same unit. Now, does it get a little more tangled that way, or is it still going to be handled in the civilian court?
It really doesn't. The issue becomes whether the UCMJ has jurisdiction over you. And on the reserve side, they only have jurisdiction over you if you were in that Title 10 or Title 32 status. Without having that status, if you're a civilian, even though you're a reservist, they're not going to have jurisdiction over you, no matter who accuses you of the offense.